It's Brother EB Success After Lockdown. Let me just introduce my guest today. We
Yeah.
got the wonderful author, Wife After Prison, Miss Sheila Bruno. And we got one-on-one, live with Miss Sarita Tolson.
Thank you. Thank
So we
you.
on a day to talk about a serious issue, and I'm gonna get right into it right now.
Okay, on the beat.
Okay. I, First, I want to say I'm elated. I'm just happy to have both of y'all on today.
Thank
You
you.
know,
Yeah.
and because I know how serious both these issues are. This issue, the mental
Uh-huh.
health issue, to both of y'all, and you
Mm-hmm.
know how dear it is to y'all. So this is
Mhm.
why I wanted you to come on today. Um, and I just want to explain, just this opening right now. There's a brother that actually, was in New York State prison where I was at, and we had him on. We had him on our program on Success After Lockdown podcast, and he talked a lot about the mental health issues that he went through,
Mm.
during incarceration, and he came
Mhm.
home and a community activist. He was doing a lot in the community, and we have a full interview of this brother that we will share to the public and to our followers on Monday. The full interview on Mr. Sheldon Johnson. It kind of boggled me because I seen the article probably Friday,
Wow.
and I seen the article on him and him being arrested for some alleged stuff. I don't really want to get into what he was arrested for. Because he has to stand his day in court.
Yeah.
I do want to talk about the mental health aspect of it, though, because he was so strong about mental health. The things that he went through during his incarceration and coming home and still having to face a lot of things. So he also spoke about when he went to prison, how they gave him a lot of medication. They just fed
Yeah.
him with medication.
Yeah.
You know, no, by no means am I justifying. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
If this man has done the heinous act that they claiming to, but I just would like for y'all to just chime in a minute, just on mental health, what y'all
Yeah.
seeing with people that's formerly incarcerated, because it took me by shock, but I'm not shocked because I do understand that those brothers, I can only speak for the brothers because I was locked up in a
Mhm.
man prison, and those
Yeah.
brothers that I grew up with, I seen how the system, I'm talking about, threw that medication on them so hard. When we first come through the system, they ask us, you need something to get some sleep. You want to get, because it's a traumatic moment when you're given 25 years, 50
Mhm.
years, 60 years, and this brother was given like 50 years at one point, and he gave that time back,
Right.
but he still did a lot of time, you know, but I just look at those brothers that I know of that went through that, and a lot of them didn't make it. What I mean is, a lot of them didn't keep their sanity upon
Mhm.
release. And so when they were released, I know a few that went right back, and I have this mental health issue is strong, it's deep.
Eric, that reminds me of what the brother Kelly said yesterday. These walls won't break, but you will.
Yeah.
And it depends on how you deal with it. Hi, Sheila. This is me.
Hey,
This is
hey,
my
hey.
first time meeting Sheila.
Yeah.
Seeing all the
Yeah.
great
Yes,
work that she's been
yes.
doing.
I said I was gonna
When I
get
saw
this. I was gonna get this right. I wanted my
you got it
sisters to
right.
know
You've
each
been had it
other.
right. Yeah.
Yeah.
So when I found out about Sheldon, I saw he was on your show, and I thought to myself, this is the stuff they like to put on nationwide news. the reoffender, the recidivism, going back. They don't want to always highlight the good things that people are doing. So this man has not been convicted, judge not lest ye be judged. However, he is the exception. We are the rule. You know what I'm saying? We are the rule, the ones that are staying out. They just don't want to perpetuate that in the atmosphere. But as far as mental health, I know this. As I was leaving, I went to a class that was 2 days, and it was what is the class called? Oh man, it was just it wasn't too long ago, but it was the going home class, and they basically just signed you up for food stamps and Medicaid and sent you on your way. So
we
we
called it pre-release.
Yeah. That's what we called it too. Pre-release, a 2-day class. That's what you got. Any other preparation for the outside as far as mental health, you weren't getting. Like I had a counselor. I saw them sporadically whenever I got a chance to. If you were not on medication, you did not see a counselor on a regular basis. So I could see how someone can get out and have all these repressed
absolutely
traumas that they've never had the chance to deal with. And
absolutely.
You need professional counseling. Like therapy is important for someone who has not been in an active war zone 24 hours a day for over a decade. And this man did 20 plus years. I did 14 and a half years. And let me tell you, there were, sometimes there's sleepless nights. We were in 4-woman cells. So that's 3 other people. And as far as mental health, we had a facility that would take criminally justice involved individuals. And in the year, I want to say 2011, they stopped taking females. So that means that you could be highly violent, schizophrenic, and you're going to the penitentiary with everybody else. Now, do you stay in trouble? Are you always in the hole? Yes, which is an injustice to them, but it's also an injustice to the population that has to learn how to move and sit around these individuals who have serious mental illness. And medication can only do so much. You spoke on medication. Sometimes, it's easier for medical and staff to keep people in a lethargic state where they're just stumbling around. That's not fair to them. And that's not fair to, just the system in general, because when that person gets out, if there's no one monitoring that medication, then what do you get?
Yeah,
absolutely.
For me, I have not been incarcerated, but my story intertwines with the post-incarceration syndrome, being married to Kevin, who was behind bars for 28 years. And my thing is this, awareness. There's not enough awareness on the inside for a person to really understand, hey, prison has affected me, right? Mm-hmm. The majority of the men and women that I have spoke with, mainly men, say, how did they prepare you mentally for coming out? Did you guys have any classes on that? And most of them have said, no, we had absolutely nothing. We had no knowledge of post-incarceration syndrome. And when I wrote my book and donated my book, over 400 copies on the inside, and just to receive letters from individuals on the inside saying, I now know what's wrong with me, right? I need my wife to read this so that she can understand what's wrong with me. One gentleman said, had I known this, perhaps my wife would still be alive, So my thing is this, the conversation definitely needs to be on the inside. My thing is this, I don't have all of the answers. We cannot just sit back and wait on the system to provide this information for them. They have a right to know. Psychologists and psychiatrists said, we failed, meaning them. They have failed. They said, because those on the inside have a right to know what the psychological impact of incarceration does to a person. So you have all of these individuals sitting inside, seeing all of this stuff every day, day in, day out, every day, and they're not going to be affected. For Kevin, for instance, Kevin had the pre-incarceration trauma. He had the incarceration trauma, and he had the post-incarceration trauma. None of the traumas ever dealt with, never dealt with. Kevin went in wearing a mask as a survivor, a strategy, a tactic to survive. Okay, wearing a mask. Thought he had left all of the pieces on the inside. Fragments of that came out with him when he put on another mask to don society. I'm good. Then he got married, another mask. So I say that to say this. Our brothers and sisters are coming home, man. They have so much psychological baggage that they're carrying. And my thing is this. A lot of people, they don't really want to address this because they're
No, they don't.
and PTSD as the same. It's not the same. There is a difference. There is a difference between the PICS and the PTSD. PICS, you've been in prison. Those who have been in prison can have PTSD and PICS. I can't have PICS. I've never been into prison. But my thing is this: when we get therapists, and I don't recommend those therapists on the inside. It is my hope one day that these prisons would have some independent therapists going in there and talking to these individuals, not someone who is eating lunch with them in the next hour, telling all of their business. One lady in my group, man, she said, look, she said, I don't send all my money to the prison. Once a month, a therapist go in to see her husband. A therapist go in to see her husband once a month.
So this is something that she's paying for?
This is something she's paying for.
Okay, great. Well,
yes,
I mean, that's always good too. But as far as like wrap around services, okay, like I said, that pre-release class here, let's sign up for some food stamps. Here, let's tell you the first 10 violations that'll get you sent back. And here you go with some Medicaid. And here's how you get to the Planned Parenthood for some condoms and some birth control. Okay. When you leave that facility, you need to already have some type of quality psychological health going, because even if you're a short-term person, most of the time, and I'm sure that you would agree, Eric, people that are on short-term sentences are battling drug addiction. So now you throw them out on parole, and they don't have anyone to support them. Sometimes people are going home, they don't have a family, and then we don't leave with any walking money. So if you had no money on your books this whole time, they're going to give you some scraps of some clothes that were donated. Most of the time, they're old officer outfits that they ripped the badges off, and that's what you're leaving in. So that's what you have. That's where your self-esteem is based on. You're going to go to, either a halfway house or a homeless shelter. Where is the quality of care? So this man gets out, he has all these plans and ambitions and tries to give back. Who knows what situation led to which? However, if you've got unaddressed issues, they will resurface.
Absolutely.
They will resurface. And if you're not going to give it to us while we're on the inside, clearly you have to realize the importance of arming people with the tools to be successful individuals. And it's more than Medicaid, food stamps, and birth control.
Absolutely.
So this is a good time. This is a good time for me if I could expound on this mask that Sheila was speaking about in reference, because I believe that most, if not all of us, wear this mask that go into the prison system. Definitely men, and I believe women too, but the men more so, because it's this macho, persona that you have to hold up. So you don't talk about your case. There's unwritten rules in this life that we go through when we come through the prison system, and it stops us from addressing our issues. Because we go in with trauma. We go before we even go to prison, we traumatized by a lot of things from being out in them streets. With Sarita was just talking about being on drugs and people, you know what I mean, in the drug life and all of that. So you compound that with holding all of this in, and then the prison system, they don't have any services, to address that. And then now I went in, and when I first went in, the first 13 years of my prison sentence, was up north, way up north, upstate, New York State prisons. They didn't have any programs. And so, I was going to certain history classes that we created, the prisoners, certain things like that. And I was addressing myself, the issues that I had within myself, my demons, when I close that gate, and take that thorough introspection of myself. So I begin to do that early, but most of the people I grew up with, I know they didn't, you know what I mean? And they are true testaments today that tell you that it wasn't until 15, 20 years that they finally got it and woke up and started addressing their issues. I can speak for me. I did early. That was a blessing for me to be able to, if you want to call it man up, growth and development, and say, listen, I'm going to close this gate today, this week, next month. I'm staying in this cell and I'm getting into myself. And I need to know, why am I doing these things I'm doing?
And that is harder. That's harder than acclimating to your environment, because I think a lot of people, you said it, you started early. It's hard because you have to learn that whole new environment. And once you learn about that environment, sometimes you become lost in it. Now it's always like 85% in it and then 15% like, man, but when you don't have that light, now you saw your light way ahead of time because you still had 14 more years. After 13 years in, you're doing everything you need to be doing. Like when I first went in there, I was just, I was in my heart angry. I was angry and I had so much time in front of me and I knew that my son was going to grow up without me, but I was going to get to be a part, but I was going to be behind these bars. I was going to be serving this time. So then when I started to change, it was more like, okay, I'm not going to adapt to this environment anymore. I'm going to make this environment adapt to me. And that's when my mindset shift happened. And I realized that, hey, if either you're going to follow the lead of what I'm doing or you're going to stay far away from me. I had to separate myself from people that weren't motivated to do the same thing and encourage as much as I could along the way. However, my same trauma, all the things I had before, all the things that I accumulated during that time, I am still yet to address. It takes a while to get used to a therapist. You cannot just get to somebody and tell them all your business. Yeah. I had 2 therapists. And one, I really felt like I was about to really start broaching some topics and things like that. And she asked me a question that I realized she would have never asked me if I was just a person off the street. You asked me that because I've been incarcerated before, and it pertained to my job and something that would have been proprietary because somehow worlds had collided where someone from the clinic had come into my job and I had a really good job, super upstanding. When she asked me that, I lost all faith and trust in her and never saw her again. So it takes time to develop those relationships where you can address trauma. And here I am 18 months out, still walking the walk, putting up the good fight. And I realize the importance of therapy. But I also realize when I find that therapist, it'll still be a year or 2, maybe more before I feel comfortable enough to tell you about the things going on with me. Therefore, if we can have something start inside the penitentiary and have it continued as you leave out, you can start to build those relationships. Because I recently went to Chicago and it was restorative practices. And they said, you know what restorative practices are? Relationships. That's how you restore people back to their humanity. That's how you allow people to be restored back into society. You build relationships with them. Because how can your mental health ever get outside if you don't have relationships outside?
Absolutely.
But the reality of it is a lot of people, especially those who have went to prison at an early age, they have a misconception of what mental health is. Some of them do not know what mental health is. I have talked to several that said, Ms. Bruno, when I heard, went to prison at 15, did 39 years, never had an evaluation. Said when he hear the word mental health, he thinks that it means that he's crazy. So one of the things we have to do is dispel that myth that it doesn't mean that you're crazy. I talked to a therapist on speed dial. Anything jump off, I can't think straight, too much stuff going on in my head. I talked to a therapist, been into a mental prison before. So we have to dispel that myth about what prison is, what prison isn't. And another thing that I found that we as society pretend that we have it all together. So if we pretend we have it all together, and we have categorized my sisters and brothers, the citizens who are coming home, in a different light, y'all ain't gonna want to talk to us.
Yeah, that's what happened to me.
Absolutely. Yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
And I did.
struggles. Yeah.
And I did 27 years in 6 months, and not one time have I seen a therapist when I was incarcerated. Not
Have you
one
seen one
time
out?
did they call.
Yeah. Yeah.
Have you seen one since you've been home?
Since I've been home, I haven't. I haven't at this particular time, but I know how much is needed.
Yeah.
And so what I have done, and what I've done inside as well as out here, is what you spoke of when you spoke about restorative and
Yeah.
relationships.
That's
right?
right.
With relationships. And
That's
so
right.
that's what I've taken on in there, because I was a part of being able to create a lot of self-help therapeutic programs for brothers that was in there with us, as well as for ourselves. We did this. A couple of us got together, you know, we sat down, we built, you know, we sat at the round table, and we knew how important that therapy was for us, you know, and so we stuck together strong, you know, and I do that as well.
Never discount the power of prayer. You know,
absolutely.
and I got out and I immersed myself in my church community, and I did try therapy twice. It just didn't work, you know, and I would love to revisit it, you know, because I know there's a need for it. Even though, you know, I'd been with this woman probably 6-7 months and was just telling her all the good things in my life. I hadn't even made it to that, but it felt good to have someone to express that too. So knowing that it's something that you need is better than nothing. And at the same time, I still stay active and strong with my church. I stay active and strong in my prayer life. So I'm always talking to someone.
Yeah. That's right. But you know what? And I've found that, you know, I have mental health professionals that reach out to me and say, I want to help, but I've never had a citizen, this population as a client before. So I really don't. I really don't. Now, as for Kevin, what really helped him, and you know, the first one, he went to her, he came back dried out. She can't help me. She cannot help me, right? But the second one was heavy trauma, and she broke him. She cracked him open, you know, and from that, I formed a list of questions that citizens who are returning, when you get ready to go see a therapist, you interview them. You interview them first, find out what their qualifications are. Find out if you have ever, you know, had a client who had been incarcerated before. Yeah. You know, just because you got the PhD and all the alphas behind your name don't mean you can help me, right? And we have to feel, you have to feel comfortable, because this is the deal. There's what's called exposure. With my sisters and brothers coming home, they got all this trauma here. So you want me to bring all this stuff up and hand it to you. And if I bring all of this stuff up and I hand it to you, can you help me? If you can't help me, guess what? I'm choking. I'm choking. I done brought all of this stuff back to my memory, and now I'm choking. So that's why it's so important. We don't just hop to go see no therapist. Now we're going to have a consultation first. Yeah. And I'm going to interview you. That's how that's going to go.
I think it goes back to guarding your heart as well. And that's something that we learned in prison. Sometimes you can learn it outside too, that you cannot just come into, you know, we used to have move lists. You move a new 4-man room, 4-woman room. And it was always just like an unwritten rule. You kind of eyes open, mouth shut, and you see what's going on around you. And that's like, I always have to build trust. Now, I'm very transparent. Very transparent. If you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth, because I'll never be held down by shame or guilt or any of those things. I'm proud of who I am. However, I'm not going to tell you about all my pits, but I'll show you the valley. And when we get to where we're going, that's where you're muted, Eric. Are you talking to us, Eric? You are muted. But okay, yeah, I cannot just bare my soul to you, because I'm not going to be that vulnerable until I get to know you. But do I bare my soul in other ways? Absolutely. You know, I feel as though going to prison was an excellent opportunity because I would have never gotten it any other way to see the depths of despair that take place within our prison system. I would have never woke up and thought that I would have been sentenced to 17 years in prison and served 14 and a half. Never. But then that was me. And those were my friends. And I saw a totally different way of life. So I did not go for no reason. So when I get out here and I bare my soul and I tell who I am,
what's up, E?
huh?
No,
Yeah,
sorry. I'm
who I
sorry,
am.
Sarita. Go ahead. Because
Go ahead,
listen,
Rashawn.
I didn't even
What's
know
wrong?
you heard me because I got the brother Rashawn Smalls from out of Buffalo. He did 27 years as well. So I just was having them come in. But please finish your thought.
That's it right there. You know, I guard my heart. I'm careful with it. But that's only in a situation where I would, be crying out for help. Any other place, I'm going to tell you what you need to know. And I'm also going to show you that we are good people. That was a missionary trip for 14 and a half years. So I could come out with my big mouth and tell about the good people just like me, tell about the injustices that are taking place, tell in conversations like this about how my mental health needs were not met.
Yeah.
And they're still not being met, but I'm still working towards something.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So like, I was saying that, we created, and this brother that I have on with us, we created, he was a part of me, helping me with my growth and development. He's a part of my therapy, to this day, because we grew up in prison together. He was 17, I was 20. You know what I mean? Like, and he this like my big brother. You know what I mean? But I say that to say that when we created these programs, we did them under that lens of knowing that we needed each other. We needed help. We couldn't do it by ourselves, mentally, psychologically. Know what I'm saying? And it to this date, that life, that it affects me to this day. So I know that there's a lot of things that's going on within myself, and I know how important therapy, is for one's psyche too. You know what I mean?
Yeah. So let me ask you this. So you say how important it is. For my sisters and brothers who have been inside, have you had that conversation with your families that asks, how am I doing? To see if there are some areas or some behaviors that you may be displaying that may be affecting them, right? Because that's so important, right?
Yes.
Because let me tell you, I've had, ladies in my ear, he on the inside, my brother on the inside. I'm getting away from this he and they, y'all. I'm working on that, right? I want to get rid of that stigma. My brother on the inside, man, I know I need some help. When I get out here, I'm going to talk to somebody. I know and he get out, they forget about that. But guess who ends up going to talk to somebody?
The family.
The family.
Yep.
Yeah. Eric, did you talk to your family about?
Absolutely. So listen. To this day, I'm the first to confess. I'm an open book. My wife, tells me all the time that I need therapy. You know what I mean. So we talk about it. We talk about both going to therapy too. Like I said, it just hasn't happened yet. I came home August 10th, 2020. I came home running.
That's right.
And I'm still running. I'm still running hard. But I'm pacing myself now.
If I can jump right in.
I'm going back to that. Y'all, please let me get this. But how is she doing?
Who? His wife or me?
The wife.
Yeah.
Wife.
Yeah. So I think she suffers through it too, because she did 13 years of her life, in prison with me. So you know what I mean? She's going through it, the adjusting, everything. Listen, we had look, I'll be the first to tell it. I know she's probably watching this too. Like listen, the first day I came home, not the first day, a couple of weeks after I came home, you know, we going to the gas station. I finally got my permit. So,
nice.
you know, I started driving, and she gave me the wheel. Once I got the wheel, she scanned me because I'm scaring her. You know, and so she scared. And we had a blown out argument at the gas station over, over you know, over me driving erratically. She felt, I felt I was just back into the groove of things.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I'm just saying, I mentioned that to say that there's little things like that go on, you know, within the relationship that we take those little things and we can make them so big. You know what I'm saying? And
Right.
out of control. And I
I
think
think
that comes
yeah.
from that comes from a lot of me just wanting to be this man now. You know, I'm home. I'm the man. You telling me what to do, like is, and a lot of brothers do that. But that's
Yeah.
one thing I feel it. See, a lot of brothers tell me they feel like they back in prison when they come home and they be with their wives because their wife, you know, they want to lock them down, don't want them to go anywhere. But I understand why women do that. You know, me personally, I believe I understand that. And you know, it might, you know, come to my mind that, damn, like I'm starting to feel like, you know, closed in. But then I tell myself that, listen, this is what you need in life. This is what you need. You need someone that's there for you. You know what I mean? That love you, and you need that partner. You need that communication. You need that. She's a part of my therapy.
Yeah,
There
if,
you
You know
if
what
I
go.
I'm
can
saying?
jump,
Communication.
can I jump right in
Yeah, mental.
for a
Let me
quick
show
second?
mental. Why you?
Yeah,
Let's get some. We live, man. We
yeah, no,
live,
that's cool.
brother.
Appreciate it.
Mental. Show
Appreciate it.
your
This is
face,
great.
please, brother.
Yeah,
This is my brother right here. This is like me and him. We like wherever he went, wherever we left the prison with each other, we still stayed in touch.
That's
His
right.
family right my family right his family. They
That's
sent us
right.
the letter, and we stayed in touch with each other all the years that we did. We was in upstate from 1994 together all the way to
Ooh,
2000. He left and went to Sing Sing, a more progressive prison. I came right after him. You know, they
that's
they had college program down there. He told me about it. Oh, you could get your associates, bachelors, and masters. I was on it, right behind him. So you know, this brother inspired me. You know, during my time incarcerated. But go ahead, Amita.
yeah, no, I appreciate that. I think he already spoke about it. My name is Rashawn Smalls. I actually, unfortunately, did 25 years in prison. I got locked up probably 2 weeks before my 18th birthday, and I think one of the biggest, what I really want to emphasize, I think a lot has been said about mental health, and a lot has been said about therapy. And you know, I've been home 7 years now, and one of the biggest mistakes that I made since being home is waiting till I absolutely needed therapy to actually get it.
mm,
You know, and that was a critical error because I ended up suffering a mental breakdown, and you know, life became overwhelming. A number of different circumstances just sort of conspired to overwhelm the resources that I had. You know, I thought I, had to deal with different situations, and I I believe I lost touch with reality.
yeah,
Um,
that's the
you
thing.
know, I could not identify what was real and what wasn't real. And to be completely honest with you, I think some of it persists to this day.
Mm,
There are pieces of my mind and my psyche that I still try to mend together from that breakdown. And the breakdown in itself, I don't think happened that day or in those moments. There have been pieces of me that were torn away over the time that I was in prison, you know, because I realized that I had experienced similar sort of breakdowns, probably
mm,
micro breakdowns while I was incarcerated. It just so happened to, be that last straw. And I would say part of the precipitating factor, that breakdown, was when I ended up visiting someone in prison. I went to
mm,
visit someone in prison, and I can't tell you how hard it was for me sitting in that visiting room and endure every memory, seemingly every feeling, all of that stuff just came back to me. And I left there and I have not been the same since.
Oh.
And a day has not gone by where I don't wrestle with that reality more than now. And I've been to counseling, and that's a whole nother trip. Like, I think counseling, probably helped me still be here.
Amen.
Where I'm sitting at in my home. I think one of the things I think as a Black man, though, what I found to be true is that, I mean, it was difficult, and I have a master's degree, but it was difficult to even find counseling. It was difficult to find. I didn't find I think the person or the person of the color that I wanted. I didn't find a Black person. I found the white woman, and I think she did her best. But the reality is that I don't think she ever really had experience dealing with someone who came from where I come from. And but it nonetheless helped me get to where I am now, and I'm grateful for that. But when it comes to the particular case that they're talking about, I don't know the circumstances. I don't even really know the individual, but I do know that you cannot serve 25, 15, 10, 5 years without being scarred, without being damaged in some significant way. And you never know when that moment or those set of moments are going to, cascade, and you end up losing touch and causing harm to either yourself or someone else. And I don't care how strong you think you are. It has nothing to do with strength, because, my experience, the mind is so fragile. And I learned that my mind, was extremely fragile. And I would encourage you, as I would encourage you not to wait till you absolutely need to counseling. You know what I mean?
Absolutely. And let me say one thing. Let me say one thing to that too. If I could just add one quick thing to that. Is that when we talk about this issue, yes, we are talking about formerly incarcerated men and women, right? That go through these episodes that we go through, these traumatic moments we go through, that go through this mental health issues. Like I was saying earlier when we came on, this happens prior to you coming to prison and after. So let's just all realize too that this ain't only for formerly incarcerated men and women.
Oh, no.
Everybody out here has some mental issues going on, and there's that point, there's that breaking point that I believe that all humans have in them. You know what I mean? If not checked.
Yeah. Oh, well, let me tell you, before I got to prison, I was already in a bad state for mental health. I was wrapped up in this relationship that had come through adult entertainment. I was being human trafficked. I had so many things: hurts, shame, guilt, beat down physically, mentally, spiritually. And then like that, okay, going to the county jail and you're facing a life sentence, victim. In a moment, I was a victimizer, and it didn't matter any of those things that happened. Didn't matter what happened that night. That was terrible. You know what I'm saying? So I go from getting beat down, abused, sexually, physically, emotionally. And now I'm going to jail. Now I'm sitting on first-degree murder, life sentence for 2.5 years before I cop a plea for second degree. So let me tell you, that's so many wounds and hurts that were never addressed, because I finally had a good counselor. I remember in prison, and I said, "You're not going to move, are you? Are you going to move? Because if so, let me know. So that way we don't." And I was just starting to, kind of talk to him. Next thing you know, he got a promotion, was gone. Didn't even tell me, so that was the end of that. And that was early on in my bid. But just like Rashawn said, yeah, you realize you need it. Don't wait to the breaking point. Now, whatever's going on with this gentleman that you interviewed that was on Joe Rogan, hey, he, once more, let me say it, that's the exception. That's not the rule. We come out with a lot of trauma. We come out with a lot of things we need to take care of, but we don't always reoffend. And they always want to perpetuate that in the atmosphere.
That's right.
Just like I just said, I was beat down before I went to the penitentiary.
Right. And so, a lot of times we don't talk a lot about the pre-incarceration trauma. Don't talk about the incarceration trauma. My thing is this, guys, and I don't like to perpetuate reality, but the reality of it where it is the exception or the rule. There are individuals coming out here and unaliving their loved ones who stood by them, women who were in my Facebook private group, right? Where over 1,500 women, and we talk about our loved ones, and it's same behavior, different zip code. And again, when I'm having these conversations, I have love for humanity, not if you have been incarceration or you have not been incarceration. Humanity as a whole, right? But a lot of times, and when we talk about mental health and we're talking about successful reintegration, we cannot talk about successful reintegration without talking about the families, because their mental health matters too. Yeah. And I would say to you, EB, like Brother Rashad said, don't wait too long.
Yeah, and that's I think the thing to that is that we're good. I think it's part of the human experience. We're good at hiding our hurt for different reasons. Vulnerability is not attractive, and when you live in this macho sort of machismo sort of world as men do, especially incarcerated men, we're exceptionally good at hiding our hurt and hiding, masking, our pain. And again, I'm a master at it too. I'm really speaking about myself. Like you, because no one wants to see you, crying, a man crying, or a man talking about his hurt, how he feels inadequate or feels insecure, right? And so when it comes to being authentically honest with yourself and going through that process of counseling, it can be very humbling. And but I wouldn't be here if it weren't for that. I think it helped get me across a bridge, but I recognize even to this day that there's a continued need for me to be a part of some therapeutic community, because again, I spent 25 years in prison. I was at I spent more time in prison than I had spent outside of prison. And you talk about pre-prison trauma, you add that on to it. Geez, I've experienced some things that I don't think very few people have experienced. I've been on both sides of violence, been victimized on both sides, having hurt others and others having hurt me. So there's a lot that goes into it. I'm sure the story of everyone on this call there's some parallels. I'm sure that brother who took that man's life recently or was being accused of doing so, I can't imagine what he endured in prison or prior to prison. I can't, for a crime like that to be committed, the level of depravity, the level of geesh, and there's no justification for it, but I'm sure that there's a story to the trauma, to the why the individual chose, whoever chose to do whatever they did. That's heartbreaking. It really is heartbreaking.
Another thing we have to consider also is not only, I spoke about wearing the mask earlier, and also, family members, we ended up putting on some masks too. I was walking on eggshells, didn't know what to say, taking me 2-3 days just to form one sentence so that Kevin would not go off, right? Mm-hmm. Another thing is, how do you silence the noise in the head? John Newton, he told his wife after 19 months in solitary confinement, he came mentally unraveled, so much so that he started experimenting with drugs, trying to silence the noise in his head. Unfortunately, he tragically, they found him deceased in his boarding room, in the boarding house, in the room. So it's the silencing of the noise. A lot of times, sisters and brothers, they're suffering in silence because they don't know how to have this conversation, because this is not a conversation that we talk about every day, which we should, whether incarcerated or not, right? So a lot of my sisters and brothers, they suffer in silence. Kevin Bruno sit in this household with me for 4 years in that back room. And I didn't even understand, but he was suffering. He was suffering. All the cumulative traumas just came to a head. They came to a head, and it just, it just got to the point where, I had to see a therapist, right? And he said to me, he said, Sheila, as much trauma as I have experienced in my life, he said, therapy would have to be a lifestyle for me. So my thing is this: we have to start having the conversation. We have
Absolutely.
to start talking about it.
And let me just say that, just what Rashawn, what Mentor was talking about, the brother, we still know that, it's alleged that he's done this. The brother hasn't been convicted of this crime. He's been charged with it. We don't,
for sure.
Again, we don't know the facts. I don't know the facts. I just know that, we had him on. We had him on StreamYard on our podcast, and we will be airing his interview in full, a full interview on him on Monday.
Yeah, no, for sure. And I appreciate that right there. I certainly don't mean to suggest that he did the crime. I mean, obviously, just was arrested for it. So, no, I appreciate that clarification.
No question.
And let me say this: my lane is this, and my message is clear. My message is so clear that we need to prioritize understanding and not denial that prison has side effects. We need to educate everybody.
Absolutely. I just want to hit it with a statistic real quick, because the United States of America has 5% of the world's population, but we have 25% of the world's incarcerated population, and 85% of those people will most likely be returning home.
Yeah.
So with that being said, whatever is going on with this gentleman who you're going to air the show on Monday, let's open up the discourse. Let's have a conversation about how to make sure that this 85%, and last time I checked the numbers, it was over 2 million people who are incarcerated within the United States of America. So 2 million people, 85% of that is about at least 1.5 million people will be coming home at some point. Yeah. So it is only advantageous for us as a society to make sure that these people are successful. These people like me, these people like EB, these people like Rashawn. You know what I'm saying? And I'm always a firm proponent of, you don't have to give me a handout. I'll take a hand up if I need it. And you know what? I'm going to turn around and give it to the person behind me. But those people are coming home one day. So that image in people's minds of the person that reoffends and if there's 85% of 2 million people who are going to come home, what are you going to do as a society and as a government and as legislation to make sure that they're not statistics, that it's not a revolving door, and that there are people that are continually being victimized, even those of us that are coming home?
Yeah. And I want to say too, to your point, I think one of the things I think we need to really put out there is that when it comes to reentry, like, I think there's this perception about you get released, you get off parole, and your reentry is over. Yeah. Right? And like, you don't need the assistance. You're still, that you're all right. You get a car, you get a house, you get a job or a career, whatever. And then he's all right or she's all right. Right. And I think that's one of the biggest myths,
absolutely.
That's one of the biggest myths I think, and unfortunately, it's easy for people to think that because you appear to be moving through life effortlessly. But the reality is oftentimes we're living on the edge, and it only takes one incident or one disappointment that could spin you in a completely different direction.
The look of going
That's
through
right.
life effortlessly is really not the look that a lot of us have. And I want to liken it to the Vietnam War. Now, clearly, I was born in 79, but I know that these people came back severely damaged from guerrilla warfare, Agent Orange, the disparity between the upper class white individuals who were college and didn't have to go, and the people that had to go, the black, the brown, the poor. So when they came back, they were mistreated. People weren't happy about the Vietnam veterans at that time. Oh, you're fighting this war, the man's war, even though they were drafted. I feel like that's the same type of treatment that we get as ex-cons, felons, all of that. I came out and I was definitely afraid for anyone to know that I had been to prison for murder. Because I wanted them to see me for who I was. I didn't want them to think I was fake, I was phony, none of that, because that's not who I am. That if they knew that first, that would cloud everything about me.
Yes.
Just like these people coming home from war in Vietnam, they fought for this country under duress. Under duress. You know, they had been drafted. When they got back, there were so many people that were anti-war. They put that on them, just like there's so many people that are anti-criminal justice reform, lock them up, lock them up. So those are the people we're coming home to. Those are the people we're coming home to. And they're not like, oh, you served your time. Good for you. No,
Absolutely.
They're apprehensive. They're scared of us. Give us a chance.
So I like what Sheila was saying too earlier when she spoke about someone that she spoke with, and the the lady said that she used to send a therapist up to the prison to see the person. You know, I think that that's so needed. Something like that is very, very much needed in the prison system because of one, you know, you like I said, you could go 27 years without seeing a psych anybody. You know what I mean? Without, so it's just crazy. When this is a serious topic, and so when you see the black and brown, and then that person come home and something happened. Oh look at that criminal. Look,
Yes,
I told you he was going back. But if it's somebody of a different, it's a mental health issue then.
You know what? And I'm sorry to interrupt, but you said that. You said that. My thing is this too. We need to change the language, right? And on my LinkedIn page, a young lady, she hadn't been in prison, but she had been in and out of the system, in jail or whatever. And she said in one of her posts recently, so profound, she said, "I just be glad when society gets to the point where we're not returning citizens, we're citizens." And that right there, from that point forward, I have changed that. You're not system impacted citizens, and just, you're citizens who have been incarcerated. So the thing about it is also, I got another list. I'm big on these lists, y'all, about what we can say, because it has to
language
start
is important.
somewhere. Yeah, it has to start somewhere, y'all. I don't care if it start with a group of 5, and then we multiply to a group of 10, and then we just passing this information out. And not only just that, but start implementing it, right? Every time you want to say a returning citizen, now, citizen, point blank, this is a citizen who have been to prison. We got to start somewhere, guys. It doesn't have to be a room of 20,000 people to make this, to make this happen. It's 1, 2, 3, 4 right here. Right here.
Absolutely.
I'll put that list out, and we just start. Let's start. We can do it. I know that
no
we
question.
can.
No question.
We can do it.
I think this is a prime example we could do it. You know what I mean? Because, just yesterday, I was just interviewing people just from New York State. And now, I've interviewed people that and have just had these conversations and met so many beautiful people all across this country, from Missouri to Houston to North Carolina to even Alaska and in
Colorado.
Denver, Colorado. You know,
Yeah.
Yeah.
you know. So I go ahead.
Yeah, and and the thing is, we didn't touch a lot on the drugs, but I want to say this. So last year when I went to Alaska, and I think I told you about that, went to speak at a summit in Alaska. Alaska had, I think, right about 4,700 people in prison, and their recidivism rate is 62.2. Right. And so I asked them, okay, well, when they reoffend, what is the charge? The majority of them are reoffending because they're getting money to buy drugs. And what people need to understand is that substance abuse is one of the symptoms of post-incarceration syndrome. I want to get high to quiet this noise in my head.
No question.
Yeah.
That's
So
a fact.
we have to really consider the symptoms. And this is why, when I was sharing my story one time and the lady just said, oh, that's just PTSD. I said, oh, well, hold on. You can't write my story for me. I know that there's a difference between the PICS and the PTSD. Now, just because it's not formally diagnosed in the DSM-5, it doesn't mean it doesn't exist. I have a brain. I can't see it, but I know I got one. Right? And
That's
so
right.
we have to push this information on the inside to my brothers and sisters, our brothers and sisters on the inside. And my thing is this: sound the alarm. Hey, prison has side effects. It does.
Yes. And I'm sorry I have to leave now, but I definitely want to thank each of you for allowing me to be a part of this discussion right here. E, I'll be in Albany tomorrow, E, so I'm gonna give you a call.
Okay.
Um,
Definitely
I'll
come
get up
through.
with you, man. I appreciate it. Yeah. So yeah, all y'all have a blessed evening, and thank you, man.
It's
Appreciate the work
nice
that you're doing.
chatting with you. Nice
Yes.
conversation.
Likewise.
Well,
Likewise.
and I also want to touch back on therapy. Now, EB, you came home to a relationship. Kevin came home to you. Sheila, you all were married. I did not come home to a relationship. I did not get into a relationship until I'd been out 11 months. And I have someone in my life now. This is the second person. And a lot of times I hesitate to think, maybe I need to have some type of conversation with him about, but I did, say, give me a little grace because I don't know what I'm doing. I didn't really have healthy relationships prior to going to prison. And I'd like to have a healthy relationship with this individual. But I mean, these are hard conversations to have. So you all had existing relationships. Think about the person that's trying to start a relationship and doesn't know how it works anymore, or how it works to begin with. So, and how do you ask somebody you've been dating 4 months, like, hey, can we go to couples counseling?
And so this is the thing. So Kevin had been out 4 years when we got together. We reunited. We dated in high school. 38 years later, reunited. 53 days later, got married. All that good stuff. Wow. So he had been out 4 years, but in going back and talking to his mom, and she would tell me about his behavior, and I was like, "Oh no, not my husband." I was like, "When?" And because he had two bids, I said that must have been the first time. She said, "No, when he got out this time." How he would go toe to toe, head to head with his father, right? And so but when he got with me, and this is the thing that he explained, when he got with me, he said, in prison, he said, I could go sit in that cell, isolate myself, be by myself. He said, but you 36, you 365, 24/7, all day, I'm here with you. And the responsibilities of being a husband. And I had him on crutches and I didn't even realize it. I got it. Babe, I'm going to do this. Oh, I got it. Babe, I'm going to go babe, I got it. But then 2.5 years, I was like, you need to be the man of the household. Da, 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 da. And he told me one day, he just turned around and looked at me and he said, Sheila, what does responsibility look like? I didn't have that in prison, right? And so he said, you had me on crutches for 2.5, 3 years, and you just all of a sudden snatched them from under me. A lot of ladies in my group, they are upset that, we want to go to marriage counseling and couples counseling. My thing is this: let she go to their counselor. You may find out you don't even have a marriage problem. You just have that individual stuff that needs to be ironed out. My therapist told me every Friday I'm rolling up there with a list of things that Kevin did. Oh. Kevin did this, Kevin did that. I can't wait to talk to her about Kevin. And she stopped me one day and she said, "Not today." She said, "Not today. We're going to deal with your stuff." And she said, "Well, let Kevin and his counselor deal with his stuff. And eventually, if you guys want to have a marriage counseling, then y'all meet in the middle." So I don't say, I don't think first coming out that a husband and wife needs to go to marriage counseling, individual counseling. And then when when you guys feel like y'all need to go to relationship counseling, y'all do that. Kevin was around here telling me, "You need to go to counseling." I was like, "I ain't been to prison. I don't need to go to counseling." Baby, let me tell you something. That lady showed me all of me. Best thing that ever happened to me. And that's why I say to family members, don't think that, it may not even be related to your loved ones who has been incarcerated. You may have some trauma you ain't never dealt with. You may have some issues. So don't just look at the fact just because they've been to prison that they have the drug. Baby, sweep around your own front door and you may find out that was the best thing that has ever happened to me. Another thing, when you are on these jobs, a lot of times they have EAP. Utilize that EAP. Utilize, you're paying for
Absolutely.
it. You're paying for it. Right?
That's right.
This. When y'all go talk to these therapists, talk to them therapists. It's your life. And if they're not the one for you, next.
Yeah, it's very important.
Don't give up on yourself.
See, when you talk about it and you expound on it and you touch on it, so much, it allows me to think about inside and how important that is. Like, you have to start, like, you can't wait. A person shouldn't have to wait to come home to, you know what I'm saying, seek therapy. There has to be something put in place in the prison system for that, because I think the more you, and I don't know if I'm saying this right, but the more you do, more time you do in there, I think the more damage you become.
Absolutely.
When you don't have therapy.
But the thing about it is, as I talk to my brothers and sisters, they're not trusting the counselors and the therapists on the inside because they buddy with the sergeant and the major and the warden. They don't want to talk to them.
Well, it
is my prayer. Yeah, my prayer is one day. Yeah, they have independent. One wife told me, she said, "I sit down and one day I just added up all of the receipts." She said, "I've spent over $60,000 since my loved one into the system, since my loved one has been locked up." And that's some. And ain't no therapy receipts in there. Yeah. You just got commissary receipts in there. Yeah. Let's make that type of investment. Let's make that type of investment. Talking to your loved one, babe. I can't send you 200 this month. Can I send you 100? Because I really need to get this other 100. Pay this therapist to come in here and talk.
And I remember when you say that. I remember I was in Sing Sing Correctional Facility. This was 2013. I was accepted into the master's program, right, to get my master's degree. And in that program, they had what you call like mentors. These mentors were brothers that went home, brothers that were home for a long time, that would come back in and visit, the person in the program. and just talk with them on a visit, right on the visit floor, and and just deal with each other's mental,
Right,
at the time. So that,
Yeah.
like, you got me thinking, like, just thinking about
Peer
how
support. Yeah.
important
It
it
is.
definitely
It is
is.
so. Look. It's so important that I got out of my bed when you called me at 6:15.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and let me tell you guys something. And I was like, "Girl, will you ever stop crying when having this conversation?" And I probably won't, because I understand. I see the stories. There are, we have the statistics and the percentages and the abstract concepts and all of that, but we need to delve more into the human stories. And that's what I get. I get the human stories. I get the wife who sent me a message 2 weeks ago, just wanted some emotional support. Her husband had gotten out, and a few days later, he committed suicide,
Mm.
right? And the thing I have with these reentry programs, we have to get away from thinking that employment is the answer. Reentry has to be holistic. You just can't make it in part. You cannot.
At
And it
all.
has to be pillars as the head, the heart, and then the hand. The head is going to deal with the mental. The heart is going to deal with the empathy and self-care. And then lastly, the hands is going to deal with employment. A lot of the programs, they put the employment first, but you can give a man a six-figure a year job. But if you don't get that head right, he's not going to keep that job. Another gentleman went through one of these big organizations. It's on LinkedIn. Went through their entrepreneurship program. Got the cap. Got the gown. Had the certificate. 3 weeks later, took a pistol and blew his heart out. Now you tell me. You tell me what's more important: entrepreneurship or mental health? You tell
That's
me.
right.
You tell me.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
You tell
No
me. So we
question
have to
about
look
it.
at, yeah, we have to look at reentry as being holistic and not just in part. It has to be holistic. And when we're
That's
doing
right.
these
Listen.
pre-release, holistic. Got to be
That's
holistic.
right. Absolutely. And look, and I know that these are the times. I always tell my team, I tell, people that are coming, these are the times for us to actually
Mhm.
push this,
Yeah.
because
Right,
ain't nobody gonna do it for us but us. You know what I
Mhm.
mean? And these topics are very important, and we know how important they are, and we have people out here now that's home, staying home and giving back to the community, doing
Yeah.
positive things
Yeah.
and for their community now.
Yeah.
And so that's why I'm teaming up I'm Team Sarita, I'm Team Sheila. You know what
That's
I'm
right.
saying? And look, I look forward to us doing, big
Yeah.
things together, and,
Yeah.
and getting this message out, because it's important. It's
Yeah,
very important.
conversations have to be had. And I know she
And
was said
nobody
earlier
doing
on
this
that
but us.
nobody's talking about it. No one's talking about it. I will say this: it is becoming more prominent in the discussion. It is
Good.
becoming more prominent in the discussion. My mom's 72, my father passed away 81, had a whole conversation because Twitch was so dear to their life and they just couldn't
Yeah.
understand why Twitch had committed suicide. And they
Yeah.
started talking about how Black people, we don't ever address these issues. And I was so proud of them. My mom's 72 and my dad 81. So people
Yeah.
are talking about it, but they just don't realize there's so many things that happen to you mentally while you're incarcerated that are institutionalization. And
Yeah.
it's, unless you've experienced, you don't really understand, like opening the
Yeah.
locker quietly,
Yeah. Yeah.
just walking in a room, making,
Yeah.
there's just so many, and
There's so
we
much.
say them the unwritten rules,
Yeah.
but it's something
Yeah.
that you learn and you teach yourself. Like when I got out, I had a conversation with you, EB. It was hard for me to learn what I could throw away and what I should keep. Like I have all sorts of stuff. I don't need to use the last little piece of it, but I feel like I should, or else, I'm wasting something because I wouldn't have things like
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
just little things and then putting things in different places. because
Yeah.
you know when you got that locker, you want to make sure everything's where it's at, so you know what you're missing or what you need. So
Yeah.
it's a whole process that we have to
Organization.
integrate.
Yeah, it is.
We
And you know
integrate
what?
back in society, and it starts mentally.
Yeah. And so, and thank you so much for sharing that. Because when you share moments like that and experiences like this, you help me. And so when you help me, I can go and help them, right?
Yes.
Because we don't know. We family members, we take things for granted as that same person that was sitting at that table is going to be the same person who walks out, or the same person that was on the phone. We don't understand.
That's
Yeah,
right.
there's a lot that goes into that.
We
Being
don't
that
understand that. Yeah. If you haven't had to cut a light off at 25 years, when you come home, it may be a couple of days when you go not cut that light off, right?
Or leave the water running.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
yeah. So there's
Let me-
and my thing is this too. It's just to family members, we have to be open to learn, because if we don't be open to learn, we're going to be a part of the problem. We're gonna be categorizing them and they and this and that. We have to be open to understand, and that's why I wrote the book. So that
listen, let me say this too. That Sarita and Success After Lockdown, we are creating. And it's in this infancy stage, but we are going to create a forum for these issues right here.
Yeah.
We're going to create a forum. We're going to have it in Missouri. We're going to have it in New York State. You know, we definitely would love to have Miss Sheila Bruno on board with this forum, you know, that will take place sooner than later.
Yeah.
And this issue will be talked about. Just because this brother was on Success After Lockdown, we're going to talk about this issue all this week, you know, dealing with mental health aspect.
Yeah.
So I appreciate y'all. You know, we crept up upon time here, but I definitely appreciate y'all. I appreciate you. I can't say it, you know, no louder, but I appreciate y'all for real.
Got it.
Looking forward to working with y'all.
Yeah.
That's
looking
right.
forward to us, you know, doing, you know, having this huge forum that I know that we can create.
Yeah. Well, I appreciate you thinking enough of me and thinking that I had some valuable information that I could share. And so I say to you and to Anthony and to Sharita, you guys have been given a mic. And as TD Jake say, don't drop that mic. You guys have something to say. And so you guys just keep saying and keep doing what you're doing.
No question.
All right.
Sarita, before we go, talk about it, man. Let our followers, you know.
Well, please check out my podcast, www.saritatalks.com. Will take you to all my social media, but it's Sarita Talks on YouTube. Got a podcast series. Had some awesome guests talking about trauma, talking about mindset change, even how to build generational wealth. I would love it if you join me. And it's all about success after lockdown. It's meeting another human being where they're at, helping everyone to be successful, and realizing don't ever give up on anybody else. Don't ever give up on yourself.
Absolutely.
And like I always say, success is measured. Success is measured. We don't look at it as this, you know, this monetary wealth. Right. You know, I believe that we all can find some success in our own right. You know, and we take that time and really, you know, take that self-introspection within yourself and do what you got to do.
Yeah.
You know,
and if I could say just 30 seconds, let me tell you something. Success, what looks like success to me may not look like success for you. And so this is another thing that we have to explain. You know, success ain't about having $1 million sitting in the bank. Success ain't, you know, penthouse and all of this stuff. So we have to also help our sisters and brothers understand that if success just means $500 in the bank right now, you're successful. So we have to break down all of that.
All right.
And make sure y'all be on the lookout for Success After Lockdown all week, talking about mental health issues. You know, hopefully we have Sarita Miss Sarita Tolson, as well as Miss Sheila Bruno back on before the week is over, you know, and we will have other guests as well, you know, because like I said, we will drop the full interview on the brother Sheldon Johnson on Monday, this Monday.
Yeah.
All right. Take care.
Very good.
And y'all take care and have a blessed night and a blessed week. And y'all already know I'm looking for big things from us. I know we can.
That's right. All in, all out.
I'm in.
All in, all out.
I'm in.